Okay, so let's just tap. So remember the sacrum like the head of the hammer. So use yourself like a tool, use the body like a tool. The best favor you can do another person is to use them, but use them well. And when you put something to use, you actually do it a real favor, because you get your energy flowing through it. Yeah? So the best way to get into the body is to start using it for something other than just a house to the mind. So one of the consequences of using this as like a hammerhead is it tends to pull the sacrum forwards, which is where we want it. So we tend to pull all of this backwards to keep some sort of mental handle on our own space, but we want to be in the middle of our own space rather than pulling away from it. Yeah, so slowly you just begin to relax into the legs. So the legs start sort of hurting. So you just have to be able to relax into that. Nitsan has a beautiful phrase. He always says that the peace that we're looking for is always the other side of the pain. So you have to pass through the pain to get to the peace. And it's very much the case with sinking. So if your legs are hurting, in a sense, it's an indication that only part of you is sunk. Another part of you is holding back from the sinking. So once you can get yourself completely down and into your legs, then they stop hurting. So it's almost like you have to let your whole body become flooded by the pain, and then the pain ceases. So just feel this area slowly pressing open. The best way to get something to open up is to pressure it. If you put pressure on something, then it has to build up its own forces to push back. And those are the forces that will actually make it open up when you release your pressure. So we get this to expand and relax by sinking. The sinking pushes the legs up and squeezes this area. And we get this to tighten by actually pulling. So when we pull with the legs, that's when we pull also here. And that's when it will just naturally tighten to protect itself from that pull. So remember, riding horse, so we're trying to get these areas here. So these tendons that make it difficult for you to do the splits and open your legs, they're the ones that really need to relax. So my teacher used to spend at least 3 hours every day in a contraction which actually pulls his legs open into a split. Yeah. So that's the limiting factor, is your ability to actually sink and open the legs. So riding horse is just a pressure trying to just gently squeeze this out. But it's really a relaxation. So as you relax here and feel this space widening, you're naturally driven onto the outside edges of the feet. So the heel going into the outside edge, going through the toes. So if you look at your footprints on the floor after you've come out of the shower, then you'll see that your instep is always off the ground. So that we just want to feel that here. So by relaxing into my hips and letting my legs swell open, I'm actually strengthening my arches. All the time, just tap, tap, tapping here. So this is pulling forwards. It's the problem is that the more we look at something, the more we inspect it, the more this tends to pull back in order to actually get a good vision. So we just want to, so we're always having to, if we look at something, it's only temporarily. It's only to get a view, and then it's like stepping back from a painting. You step back from a painting to see the painting. So here we need to step back from ourselves to actually see what we're doing, but then we need to get right back into it. Opening up across the sacrum. So the sacroiliacs, the two joints either side of your sacrum, joining your sacrum onto your hip bones, they're very important as well. We have Sam. Sam's got fat. Okay. So let's just get down. Let's get into the legs. Really go down. That's it. So the dantian is just like a uterus. This is why women have a distinct advantage over men, because they know what it's like to have a uterus. So it's in exactly the same place as the uterus is. So it's contained. It's like just a little sphere, and it's full of movement. The same way your uterus would be if you conceived. So just feel this ball. There's like a bladder, a small bladder inside your belly, and it's almost suspended in space. So keep a bit of tension in the perineum. To keep this is one of your smiles. Yeah? You can think of this being like a smile, the way your face would smile, or what I call the cave. So it's like the container, and this dantian just. It's doing this all the time, but it's also bouncing up and down gently with your bouncing. Okay, so when this is in the right position, so when you're using the sacrum like a hammerhead, and this is forwards generally of where it normally is, then this has support beneath it, and then the heart can start to open and reach out. So just feel this underpinning this. So this is the foundation of this. So as your heart spreads into your arms. The belly remains tight underneath that. Okay. And now let's just try just breathing. So from this posture again, and so what we want to do, what tends to happen with this area is this: when this gets strong, when the dantian gets some sort of substance to it, it tends to flop forwards. Yeah. Now what we want is to actually have it's as though you have a belt on, a belt that runs all the way around, and it's actually holding it all in place. It's like a support. And so that we develop that from the breathing. So let's just start with our normal one. So just pulling in and out. And again, just always start off gently with these things. Otherwise you'll introduce tension to the hips, and that's the last thing you want to do. If anything, you want, as you tense the dantian, the hips actually free up and the knees can go out even more. So we're really localizing our tension. So the tension is in the dantian, but all of the surroundings are actually relaxed. So this is like the simplest action of all. It's basically just breathing. So you're breathing not so much with the breath as with your spine and your body. So here you're curling up. So this would be the yielding phase. And then here you're straightening. So this would be the attacking phase. Here you're pulling energy in and gathering it up into your dantian. And here you're squeezing it out. In, out, in. So the important thing as you pull in is that you don't stick your bum out. So if I try and do it this way, so I can see if I'm doing it right. So when I pull in, what people tend to do is do this. Yeah? So it's not that. You're wanting, this is pulling over, but the tail is also pulling under. So I'm doing this. My whole spine is making a curve. Yeah? And then I can go out. Now my tail sticks out a little bit and my head goes back. So here, you can imagine the spine is like a shape of the letter C. So I'm just going from a C this side to a C this side when I pull in. So here, I want this definite feeling I'm pulling my tail between my legs. And then here, as well as sending my head back, I'm sending my tail back. So this action is actually working both ends of the spine equally. So here, head forwards, tail under and forwards. And then here, head back and tail back. So just imagine you've got this long, whippy-like tail. Yeah, so just imagine your spine is just a lot longer than it really is. So you've got this tail that can reach the ground. So here, it's going out, back behind you. Here, it's pulling in. And just, think of animals like cats and dogs. When their tail is down between their legs, they're normally feeling a bit sad or guilty, or trying to appease, trying to show that they're not a threat. And when their tail is up and out and wagging, then they're ready. They're active. So this is our active phase, and then this is our curling in phase, where we just want to make sure that we're not perceived as a threat. And then out again. Just feel the tail, extend the tail. So we have to find those muscles that we're generally lost that actually extend these parts of our body which we don't normally use very much. So we don't normally use the tail. But in Tai Chi, we definitely want to. So here you've got to feel, what do I do here? What do I do across my sacrum to push my tail back? Yeah? It's almost like you're trying to shift. Yeah? You're sort of pushing, and you're pushing something out of the end of your spine. And then you can feel the same thing happening to the head. It's like you're a unicorn growing this extension that's coming up. And just feel the eyes, so how the eyes intensify in order to make these things grow. So here you're extending, and then here you're pulling. So your legs are simply supporting this action. So you now have a spine that is really active, supported and held in place at the hips by the legs. So in your mind, what you want is for your tail to be as long as the top of your spine, so that what is beneath here is as long as what is above here. So in your mind's eye, you really have a whippy-like tail. So here I just extend the tail out. So you can think of a dinosaur, kangaroo, even like a squirrel. You know the way the squirrel's tail bends so much it comes up its spine and curls at the top. Yeah? So there's all these different visualizations you can use. So we're using this simple breathing exercise to actually transform the body's structure, albeit only energetically. But it does feel almost like your tail is actually squeezing, almost like it could erupt out of the skin. And then you can coordinate it with the actual breath coming in. And it doesn't really matter whether you do the normal breathing or the reverse breathing. What's important on all of these things is to find and get into the mood. Yeah? So what is the spirit? Well, what's the signature of this exercise? How can I wake it up? And how can I allow myself just to become possessed by it? Right. And now let's just bounce a few more times. Just tap, tap, tap. So spirit is a bit like the animal in you. So imagine like an animal that's slightly nervous and it's unpredictable. You know, it seems to be okay, but it's got this nervousness to it that means that you just have to be really, really careful. So that's the sense of your own spirit. So it's like you're trying to wake something up that just makes your life difficult because you suddenly become something that is difficult for the world around you to cope with. So we're so used to controlling ourselves, keeping ourselves in check for the sake of others, for the sake of relative external harmony, that we just lost all sense of our own innate power. So we're just trying to wake up these relatively dormant parts of our spirit. Okay. Now let's just try with one leg, just to give the legs a bit of a rest. And just again, just bouncing again, just feeling this forwards. And now just feel yourself just relaxing into this side, because that's the side where the weight is. So when we're double weighted, the movement tends to be up and down. Yeah. So that's the useful thing about standing in like riding a horse and double weighted posture, is that you're connecting with gravity. Now as soon as you go into one foot, the energy starts to circulate. So you start to produce circles or ellipses. And so as we lean into this side, as this leg comes up and releases, there's a sense that with each bounce, I'm sort of getting further and further in this direction, more and more onto the outside edge of my foot. So that the two sides of the body are very, very different. This side is heavy and strong and connected to the ground. This side is just weak but free. So you can kick with this foot, yeah? And so what we want to feel is this circuit. So it's basically the circuit that you would need in order to kick. So I'm sinking down this side, but by sinking down that side, I'm introducing an upward element on the other side. And this is very important. So no longer am I simply going down, I'm now producing a circuit. And that's simply by virtue of the fact that I've become single-weighted. I've got my weight in one foot. So the more I strengthen and bounce into this leg, the more this leg is free of the ground. Now let's try this leg. Again, just let it, just start off nonchalantly. So just let it sort of just kick in its own time. So to me, it almost feels like I start to lean on something, as though there's like a soft surface here that I can sort of lean into. Again, this becomes full. So just try and catch the difference in the feeling between the two sides of the body. The side that you're standing on just feels stable and heavy and connected, like a workhorse. Yeah? It's doing its thing, but it's quite boring. Yeah? Whereas the other side starts to get a little bit inquisitive. It's like your toes and your foot want to sort of reach out and explore. So there's a very different quality of spirit in the side that's empty. Yeah. And what's interesting is that both aspects, the heaviness here and the lightness here, come from that tightness in the dantian, just holding the whole structure together. Yeah. So the dantian is feeding both my heavy gravity-laden part and my light levity part. Yeah? So my heart and my sense of humor. So my sense of humor is in this side, and my depression, if you like, is in this side. They're both really important, so they have to be kept in balance. Yeah, so you have to do your duty, you have to be able to just do what's difficult, otherwise you're just infantile. But also you have to be able to lighten up, otherwise you're depressed and boring. So, okay. Okay, so first, before we get into the breathing, let's just try this. Yeah? So just getting the toes working, remember? So rocking back into my heels and just extending the toes. Yeah? And then just grab the ground with the toes and round the knees out. So you're basically doing with the toes exactly what you're doing with the fingers. And concentrate especially on the little fingers and the little toes. So they're actually really quite interesting because they're trying to reach behind you. If you feel the little toe, it's actually trying to hook behind you. So the little toes actually connect naturally with all of this energy behind you. So here you're just clutching the ground. You're trying to pull your toes towards your heels, and then here you're extending. Yeah? So extending, so the knees come in a little bit in order to get the little toes going out, and then here I just grab, and my knees naturally round outwards. But I want it to come from my toes rather than from just moving my knees. So again, we're extending something that is normally not even considered extensible. Yeah, so we don't even normally consider that our little toes could actually grow and have an important life of their own. So this is what we're just trying. So what do I have to do inside? What tension do I need to develop to squeeze my little toes out? It's very similar to what we had to do with the tail. And then here, just clutching it all up. Extending out. And pull it in. Extending out. So it's like, you know, we're just trying to find what part of your mind and your spirit is actually involved in extending these toes. Because it's basically extending all over you. Yeah? You're actually becoming, you know, like the hedgehog. So you're developing all these bristles, especially coming out of your back and spine, that are very sensitive, that can sense the presence of things that we don't even consider to exist. Yeah, so here, whoa. So as I extend my little fingers and my little toes, it's like I sprout these bristles, especially out of my back. And then here I can just draw them in. And so there are two beautiful extremes, like an extreme of bristliness and hairiness, if you like, and then this extreme of smoothness here. Wow. So extend. Almost feel that these bristles can extend and touch the limits of your room. Yeah? It's very much like the tentacles of an octopus. Yeah? So here, one, So it's like a different sense. So when these bristles open up, you become sensitive to things that, if you were in danger, say you were walking somewhere in some difficult neighborhood in the dark, then this would pick up the necessary information required to sense the danger before it actually reached you. So for a martial artist, the most important thing is really not to ever have to utter those fateful words, "I wasn't ready." And so you're wanting a sensitivity that actually places you before the event. So there's part of your energy that is actually prior. And it's because your spirit is so capable and intensified, you're actually feeling the event as its inception. Yeah? And then it's difficult then to know whether you've actually simply felt the event or whether you've created it. Yeah? Oh. So. And just feel, if someone was behind you with their hands on your shoulders, just pressing down, it would really intensify your effort. Yeah, so here you'd really have to, so basically all the energy that you were using to push yourself against them can be squeezed into these protuberances. This is why the sync is so important. It basically forces your energy to find different routes when you impose sinking upon yourself. So the energy that would normally just come up and bring our body up into the normal world actually finds a pathway into these strange energetic protuberances that the body has but don't normally get exercised. Okay, so now just bringing it here. Okay, now let's just try. So let's just stand on one leg just to make it single weighted. So just find your dantian. So just put your finger on the dantian. So it's normally like the waistband. And this is why people don't really have an excuse not to know their dantian, because it's exactly where their belt buckle generally is. Yeah. Okay, now what we want to do is make the little hole. Yeah. So make the little hole with your mouth. And as you breathe in, just suck the air through this little hole. So I'll just, yeah. So as I suck in, because I've made a tiny hole, these muscles have to really tighten to actually pull the air in. So I pull in, and then I push the air out again through the little hole. Pull the air in. So I got into this after having to wear the mask. You know? Everyone's saying, "Oh, I hate wearing the mask. It makes breathing so difficult." Well, we can use it as a breathing exercise. So here, just imagine you've got that face mask on. It's difficult to get the air in, so you really have to suck with the muscles to pull the air in. And then you just feel it here. And then you can squeeze it out and pull in, out, pull in, out, pull in. So each time you breathe in, it's as though you tighten your belt. Yeah. So I'm tightening the belt here, like I'm pulling it up a notch on the buckle, and then I just relax it here. Yeah, so we're using the breath to create this belt of muscle, and just change. Just change the leg when it gets tight. So breathing in, out. to make it really difficult to get the air in. So you should feel, as soon as you start breathing in, you should feel a kick here. So, okay, now let's just look now at how it's different from when we do this. When we do this, this is basically just the spine curling one way and then curling the other. But now when we do this breathing, we're introducing tension here in order to support an expansion here. Now on the previous one, we were bringing a tension in here, and that was pulling everything down. So it was causing the heart to collapse down into the dantian. So this one, the way it's different, and it's more difficult in a way, because it's more complicated, is I start breathing, and so that kicks the dantian. Yeah? So it's like, this just becomes tight. Yeah? So it's tight. For a guy, it feels like you're trying to pull your balls up. Yeah? So this whole area gets a little bit tight and protected. But then as you continue the breath, this expands. Yeah? And then you just push the breath out. So to start with, you establish the dantian underneath your heart by pulling in with a small hold. And then as the breath continues, this starts swelling out. So what we're looking at is trying to balance the tightness here with the openness here. It's actually quite difficult because it's such a different mind. Yeah? We tend to like to have the mind just doing one thing at a time. Yeah? But here it's got to basically do two things. Yeah? So here I just pull the belly in, making the small hole, just suck the air in, and then just feel this underneath this, and then this can just fill with the rest of the in-breath. And then I push it out. And again. So it's basically, it's the dantian. This is it's a more sophisticated dantian. It's the dantian that a good ballet dancer or even a good athlete would have. Yeah. So they can do something here and something completely different here. Just feel how when you're using this in this way, this whole area there's little adjustments going on all the time in the bones, their alignment. Yeah, so in. Out. So now let's just bounce again. Okay. Now let's just try the toes again. So now just moving myself side to side, but just using one leg. So I'm going to use this leg. So I'm going to pull myself into the leg by grabbing the ground with my toes. And then I'm going to push myself back from the ground by straightening the leg. So I pull myself by bending the leg. And then I push myself by straightening the leg. So as I straighten my leg, my toes are trying their best to extend. So my body's moving in that way, but my spirit, if you like, is trying its best to continue in that direction. And then I just catch hold of something and pull myself forwards using the bending of the leg. So here I'm straightening this leg, and that's pushing me backwards. And then here I'm bending the leg. So just feel the connection between the foot and the ground. So you're pulling that connection here. So I'm trying to pull the ground up into my dantian, and of course the ground won't move, so it pulls me down towards it. So as I bend my leg, I'm getting pulled down into this foot. So pull. Yeah, so this is the toes grabbing, and then this is the toes extending. And again, get into the little toe. Feel the little toe. So as you extend, the little toe is trying to go around the corner, and then everything's gathering in. So push and pull. Yeah. And just remember that the effectiveness of the exercise is all dependent upon how well you can sink. So how well you can resist this action with your sinking, so that you've actually got something significant to move. So here I really have to pull because my body's heavy because it's sunk, and then here I really have to push. So one. So just get into it. That's this English saying. Get into the exercise. Really sink into it. Yeah, so if I was really, really heavy, let's say someone was leaning on me here, and I had to move both of us, and I tried doing this and nothing happened, what would I do? I'd really sink down in order to get under them so that I could actually move both of us. So that's what we just want to do that all the time. Just imagine you're 10 times heavier than you really are. So to actually get forwards, I had to grab into the ground with that foot. I had to really extend my toes and then just grab and pull myself forwards. And then here I just sink down and heave. Okay. So you're really having to use a lot more effort than normal because you're a lot heavier than normal. So again, we're just waking up energies that we don't normally use because we're basically underworked. The average, especially bourgeois human now, just doesn't know the meaning of hard work. They don't know the meaning of physical work. Yeah. And so here you go. Yeah. And just feel the spirit, feel that part of you getting riled. There's part of you getting a bit annoyed, a bit angry, because just feel how that spirit, that anger, actually rouses your strength. It rouses your power. So without anger, you're basically useless. Yeah? You're unusable. You can't use yourself, you can't use anyone else. So you have to have anger at your disposal. You need fighting spirit. So all this peace, love, and happiness, it's only one side of a coin, and it's the least important side of the coin. Because without the other side, you're never going to get it. Yeah? So it's the other side we need to work on. The difficult, grim, hard work side. Okay, now let's try exactly the same thing, but with this leg. So now to always start off lightly. Always just, at least a few rounds, just to make sure you've got it in your mind. So everything I've been working on really the past, since I've come to Israel, it's all encapsulated in that octopus movie. Yeah. So in the movement of the octopus, it's totally fascinating because if you think, think how different an octopus is from us, and yet its intelligence is very similar. So consciousness and intelligence have developed along a completely different evolutionary path to ours. So I'll just extend, and then that's like the tentacle of the octopus going out, and then this is pulling in. So here the octopus is extending its tentacle, and then here it's grabbing something and pulling it in to eat it or to look at it. So my teacher used to talk a lot about tentacle energy. And then in the background, just have this breathing going with the little hole. So just remind yourself every now and then to tighten the down chin by trying to suck your in-breath through that tiny hole. That's the good thing about the face masks, is that you can make a tiny hole without people thinking you're weird because they can't see your mouth. So in Israel now, the virus is pretty bad, so I've started wearing my mask when I'm working, especially with the old people. And it's great, because I can be doing my own work as I'm working with them. So you always have to be looking for ways to actually do a little bit of extra work. That famous story in my lineage of when my teacher first met his great teacher, Dr. Chi, and they hit it off immediately apparently because they both loved pushing hands, both much more interested in the partner work than they were in the solo work. But Dr. Chi just said to him, how much practice do you actually do? And John was very proud of himself because he was a hard worker, so he said 8 hours a day. And Dr. Chi just thought for a while, and he just said, 8 hours, not enough. And so what it is that, even when you're walking down the street to the bus stop or anything like that, you've got to find little tricks, little techniques that you can engage so that you're working all the time, like every waking moment. Yeah? And by the end, my teacher had developed these sleeping postures that meant that his energy was working whilst he was sleeping. So it's like you're keeping a thread going. That's the important thing. And so, you know, when you have your practice, then you develop a thread. Now, what tends to happen is you need to recapture that thread every time you start your practice. So this is why practice is daunting for people. It's not that it's not enjoyable or that it's difficult. It's just that they know subconsciously that they have to reconnect with something that they've lost, and they can't believe that they'll retrieve it. And this is why it's very important when you start your practice to just start very gently. And it will come to you. It's like a wild animal. If you're very gentle, like a horse, if you're very gentle, it'll come to you. You don't need to rush out and actually leap on its back and break its spirit. You just wait, bide your time, be patient, make yourself attractive, and it will come to you. So extend and contract. So just imagine the tentacle. Here you extend something out. Ooh. So it's got a wriggly, flowy feel, and then it just comes in. So just watch that movie. Do yourself a favor. So the link that I sent does actually work. Because someone tested it for me. And it's on Netflix. If you've got Netflix, then it's just called My Octopus Teacher. And pull. Extend. Yeah. So the more difficult you make it for yourself, the more angry you get. Yeah. Yeah, so if your children came into the room, they should realise it's not a good idea to disturb you, otherwise they're going to get a bloody nose. Yeah. Or at least a clip around the ear. So there's something in you that's just boiling with the intensity of what you're doing. And the slower it gets, the more intense it's actually getting. So your energy's rumbling. It's rumbling, it's shaking the room. It's like in the Castaneda books where they're playing with him. So Don Juan and Don Gennaro are playing with Castaneda all the time. And every time Don Gennaro goes into the bushes to have a shit, the mountains rumble. Because when he does something, he really does something. And Castaneda's terrified. Back. So now just bounce them again. Yeah, so you should feel a bit more limber now. Yeah? Like you've got these movements that want to sort of just slip in. And now let's just start turning, but turning from the ground. Yeah? Again, just imagine someone's holding you from behind. So it's not just you you're moving, you're actually moving someone else as well. Like you've got one of your kids on your back. So you're having to really concentrate and make sure you don't hurt your back, first of all. And what's also interesting is carrying both your kids, one on each shoulder. I used to do that with my niece and my step nephew. And you really have to need a lot of tension here just to support the lower back when you've got a lot of stress. And again, it's the tentacles. So all the way from that leg, all the way from this leg. And every now and then just breathe in through the small hole, and that will pull your tail under. It will stop your lower back from curving too much. It will, what my teacher would call, pull your bum in. And now just let it slip gently into the figure of 8. And just feel the absolute power of this exercise. But it has to come from somewhere real. If you just go straight into the figure of 8 without having activated these deep energies, it's just another pattern that you're imposing upon yourself. You're this feeling here that this is really coming out of you, coming from your real depths. So it may not be perfect shapes, but there's something beautiful about this, about this action, just sort of leaning over. It's almost like ecstasy. Imagine you see someone that's having an orgasm. And then when you're doing this, it's like the opposite. So there's these two extremes that we're passing through all the time. Wow. So every now and then I'm sucking the breath in through the hole. And that reminds me of the Dantian. It reminds me to be depressed. Or to be present in the room rather than with myself. Yeah. Sure. So there was a time when one class, my teacher came in and just looked at what we were doing and just sort of shook his head in despair, because it was all so useless and shitless. And he was saying, you just need to tighten up and rouse your spirit. And then he just had a brainwave. He says, okay, let's do the form and just imagine you're an animal. Imagine you're a dog or a wolf. Yeah? And so by the end of the form, you're howling. You've got this intense animal energy. And so we all got into it. And I can tell you, for like days afterwards, I could hardly move. I was so tired because it had just brought out energies that I'd never normally accessed. So this is a sign of a good session when you feel like death the next day. Because it means that you've stretched yourself. And then you just need to be sensible and just recover. This is why these animals, animals are so much better than us in a way. They're not distracted. They have a different attitude to time. They have a different relationship to life and time. We tend to think it's all going to go on forever, so we've got the luxury of breaking and going into our own inner world. So what my teacher would say is, you're all wankers. You all spend most of your time masturbating your energy away by allowing your mind to wander. So if you can just keep the mind on the job, then time itself becomes like a long tentacle. So there's part of you always connected to the floor. Yeah, and when it looks like you're going to get too carried away, just come back to the breath. Just come back to the little hole. And it's like a sobering experience when you just tighten the damn chair. It's like, okay, you just come back to reality. So you're just playing with this, you're toying with these two extremes. So part of you is wanting to get so into it that you you forget yourself. Yeah? But another part of you knows that it all has to be supported by your anchor. Which is your dantian. So the Hebrew for anchor is ogin, which is such a beautiful word. A lot of Hebrew words are much more beautiful than ours. One of the fun things about speaking with Israelis is when they start using a word that they've seen written, but they've never heard anyone say it. I remember being in Nitzan's class and he was talking about the anchor, and I was thinking, what the hell is he talking about? And then I realised it was an anchor, because of course it's spelt anchor. And so imagine how difficult it is for a non-English speaker to actually learn new vocabulary. Because everything's spelt strange. It's only spelt that way because originally that's the way it was pronounced. Okay. Now let's just go back to here a few times. Again, just breathe in a few times through the small hole. So it should make a real difference to this area. It should tighten the buttocks up a bit and just pull your tail under. Okay, now let's just sit down and just do one little breathing exercise. Yeah, so a lot of breathing exercises there. The way it's explained is that we need to get more oxygen into the body because oxygen is this life-giving force, and we need to get rid of the carbon dioxide because the carbon dioxide is a waste product. Yeah, so when breathing is explained, it's told, okay, the important part is the out-breath, because that's the part where you're expelling your carbon dioxide. Yeah. Well, now everything's shifted slightly because now they're realizing that oxygen, as well as being a life-giving force, is actually an aging force because it's basically a free radical. So oxygen actually ages you, it rusts, it causes corrosion and everything. And whereas the carbon dioxide is actually protective, you need a good level of carbon dioxide in the body to actually protect it from the oxidizing effect of oxygen. Yeah? And so there's a whole range of breathing exercises now to do with holding your breath, to do with actually stopping breathing rather than speeding it up, which most breathing exercises are to do with. Yeah? So let's just try one. So we've done it before. So basically let's just breathe in and out, and so from the belly, the way we do when we, so breathe. So here you're pushing everything out by squeezing the belly in, and then you're breathing in, and then you're breathing out, pulling the belly in, and then you're breathing in, And so the feeling is that you're actually almost breathing with this action rather than with the diaphragm. So by straightening up, it's naturally sucking oxygen, air into the lungs, and this is naturally expelling it because you're trying your best to reduce the volume of your cavity. And then here you're increasing the volume, and that will naturally pull the air in. And now you're reducing it, increasing it, breathing in. And okay, now the next one, just breathe in as far as you can here. And now just hold your breath and continue. So you're holding your breath, but you're continuing this exercise. And then take an in-breath and an out-breath. And then again, a big in-breath. Hold your breath and continue the movement. So you're squeezing, it's like you're massaging your insides. By holding the breath, you're keeping a high volume. So you're changing the pressure by holding your breath. And then again, just breathing in. And hold the breath and then the next time, breathe out. Breathe in. Hold the breath. So you just hold the breath for as many as you feel comfortable with. Could be 2, 3, 4, 10. And then breathing out. Breathe in. Hold the breath and use those muscles in the belly. So you're using those muscles to massage the inside. Breathing out, and one more. Breathing in, hold the breath. Great. Okay, so just feel, so this is the heart. So when you've got your hands in prayer posture, your mind is here, if you like. Yeah? Okay, now just bring your hands down. I'll just go back a bit so you can see my hands. So just bring your hands down now so they're level with the dantian, and let your thumbs just touch the dantian. And just maybe breathe in just for a second through that small hole, just to tighten everything up down there. And then just bring the hands back up to here. So just feel how the mood changes. Yeah? So this is, if you like, this is us at our best. We're in the heart, we're peaceful, we're on the edge of giving, if you like. Now, when we pull it down to the dantian, suddenly we become mean. We become tight. We adopt that ruthless side that's detached and capable of cruelty or meanness. And then just bring it back to the heart. And just feel it. So the heart just wants to open. So the prayer posture actually just keeps it together. And now let's just pull down again. And now just breathe in through that small hole and just tighten here. and feel that that tightening is actually pulling your hands down. So you're pulling your own hands down into the down chair. And then you just allow the hands to bounce back up again to here. And now just bring the hands up and open. Yeah. So this is also a prayer posture. And now this is for the head. So just feel the top of the head. Imagine someone's cut your skull and taken the top of your skull off. And there's this beautiful golden light shining out of the top of your head, going up to the heavens. And so this arm shape is just like a funnel that's helping it, directing it. So your elbows are actually still tied to your dantian. Your wrists are with the heart, and your fingers are with this energy that's coming up. And then just, as you bring the hands back into prayer posture, just let this sort of close down. It's like you just put the top of your skull back on. So now it's still there, but it's just not shining so brightly. And now just breathe into the dantian through the small hole, feel it tightening, and you're just becoming a little bit. Let's try that once more. So just now let the hands come up into prayer posture. So this is the heart slowly filling up but remaining contained, it's not leaking. And now just the hands come up and roll up. It's like, Yeah, so each of the centers beneath supports the one above it. So your dantian supports the heart, and then together the dantian and the heart support the head. And in a way, the head is the most important. Now, the big crime, really, our original sin, it's a beautiful idea. The concept of original sin is really just us having lost our radiant splendor, lost our head, and brought it into thinking, actually tightened the frontal lobes and puckered the brow and just pulled all that energy into the thinking process. Yeah? So here we're just relaxing the forehead. Just imagine it really widening. Think of a Chinese person, an oriental face, how wide they are. The eyes are wide apart. Just beautiful. They've all got these moon faces. So your brow is relaxing and widening, and your head is just emitting this light that's going upwards. And this is worship. So this is just you connecting upwards with the part of you that belongs there. But just feel that if you didn't have the support of your dantian and your heart, it wouldn't really go very far, the head. So the head's the last thing to develop, really. And so for this beam of light to get all the way up to Sirius and beyond, these need to be really tight and together. And then just bring it back to the heart. So when you're in this position, prayer position, you can still feel this and you can still feel this. These are the two extremes that your heart should actually embrace. So this is the middle way. The middle way is the embrace of two extremes. It's not you having rejected the extremes in order to take this safe route in the middle. It's you completely able to oscillate between these two beautiful extremes, but dangerous. Yeah. Great. Okay. In English, the Zohar is translated as radiant splendor. Yeah? And so for me, the Zohar is not really the book. Yeah? It's this. Yeah? It's the head reaching upwards. Yeah?
It's difficult to get into the head. Yeah. So like with John, you know, I started in 1984 and it was like 2001 before he got into the heart. You know, so like 17 years of working on the Dantian and syncing before he started opening this for us, and he never got to this. Yeah. And so this, it actually, you know, you just catch glimmers really of your angelic self, and that's, you just have to be content with glimmers. Yeah. Okay. Have a lovely week.